everyone. Welcome to the newest podcast of the Mayapack Public Library. We're now called Katie and Alice, or Allison and Katie's animated adventures, where we're going to talk about anime and Western animated cartoons, whether from our childhood that we grew up watching or the latest and greatest in animation that's on TV now. I'm Katie.
I'm Allison.
And today we're going to be talking about the latest update, not even update, a reboot on the Rurouni Kenshin anime, which I was very excited about. Because when I was younger, in middle school, I watched the original Rurouni Kenshin anime, and I read the manga. So I kind of have an idea of from what I remember from the old anime and how it looks in comparison to the update or the reboot. I don't know why I keep calling it update, because it's a reboot.
Remake.
Yeah, that too. And what I find is that I really enjoy it. I mean, I saw a few YouTubers comparing the original to the updated version, and there's some complaints, I guess, for lack of a better term, about like how the animation's different, how the shading's different, how movement of characters is different, because apparently one of like the greatest directors in Japanese animation had worked on at least the first season or so, or the first few episodes of the first season, because when the original, halfway through the first season, I noticed an animation change, and it was really like jarring. So you could tell that they had changed animated animation studios. And I don't know, I understand the nostalgia part of it, but watching it from when I was in middle school to like several years ago, when I was still in college, I don't know that I liked it all that much.
Interesting.
And now looking at the first 6 episodes of this remake, it's like, okay, I enjoy this a lot more. Yes, it, like the introduction, like the first episode, from the original, there was a lot more movement, there was a lot more stylized, dialogue, frames and whatnot. But sometimes I feel like that detracts from what should be coming across when introducing a character. And I don't mind like the standing and just dialogue and nothing artsy is going on with like the camera angle or anything like that. But what I found too is like the introduction to characters is closer to what I remember from the manga.
Yeah, that's like the main thing I saw people saying, was that this is going to be closer to what the manga was.
Yeah.
And like, I never read the manga, so as someone who has, like, you got that sense.
I did get that sense, yeah. And I was, like, at first I thought, okay, this is already rehashing what I've seen before. But then what I really like is that in, like, the first iteration of this anime is, like, you have Dr. Gensai and his granddaughters, which were never in the manga. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I just remembered they existed.
Right.
It's been a while since I watched the original. So watching the remake, sometimes it's like, I don't remember.
Right.
That, like, the characters, like, motivations are different, or that certain characters weren't in the original, or that, some was original to the adaptation, not the manga.
Right. Yeah. So so they're not there, and I really like that. What is there though is like the protagonist to this particular episode and the subsequent episodes afterwards, where it's the brother to the giant man who's pretending to be the Batosai manslayer, and in the manga it's them, and there's no like backstory that the giant man is given. I don't remember his name, the character name, so I'm just gonna call him.
I think it's Gohei.
Yeah. there was never any backstory to Gohei in the manga where he was from, Karu's dojo, whose father had paralyzed his thumb because all he wanted to do was kill people with the sword. That was never the indication in the manga. So when they put it in the anime, I'm like, that's not true.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like trying to make it a more personal
Yeah.
situation. Why, like, he's trying to be involved in her life than what it actually ends up being, like
Right.
in the remake and the manga.
Right.
That they just want to take over the dojo.
Which, I mean, and then sell it for their own greedy, reasons, which I find to be far more compelling than him Gohei having this backstory that was given to him in the original anime.
Yeah.
And I know that there are a few people out there that don't agree with that opinion.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, like, where I stand on that.
Yeah.
Because I do think, like, the more personal reasons, it's, like, in a way, a more compelling backstory.
Yeah.
But at the same time, editing out his brother, and they both appear again later.
Right.
So then it kind of leads into, like, a snowball of, like, when you start changing things, then you have to change more things.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then it's like the integrity to what was originally produced is lost then in that.
Yeah.
Because you have to then change so much to what the original had already produced with characters and characterization.
Yeah. So would you say if somebody was trying to decide whether they should just watch the remake or watch the original, would you recommend one over the other or both?
I would recommend both. Because not to say that the original is terrible, it only becomes terrible once you get to season 3, and then it kind of like just goes off the rails. It's not there. And then there's filler episodes too in like season 1 that I don't remember being part of the manga, and they're just fillers, and they're not very good fillers. So, like, I guess an example is when they all go on a train trip and Sanosuke is freaking out because he's on a train, and how is a kettle producing steam making a train move, and like how cameras suck out people's souls, and the styling animation, that's when the styling of the animation changes, and it's all very like odd looking, and it's jarring, and it's not very pleasant.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's parts of the original anime that is very nostalgia for me. It's more nostalgia than anything else, but I feel like if you just didn't want to watch the original and watch this remake, you would watch the remake and be, I think, very happy and satisfied with what's being made, because if you compare them side by side, they're not really changing so much that there's nothing really different from the original other than the introduction of characters of like Yahiko and Sanosuke and Karu. The difference I will say about Karu's character is that in the original, she's more of a passive character, and like had this whole thing of like yelling for Kenshin to like yelling Kenshin's name to like help her and stuff like that, which wasn't her characterization in the manga. She was very much an active person, an active character, because she knew the Kamea style of swordsmanship, and she could actually fight and defend herself, and she does that within like in this first episode, and I really appreciate that they changed her character in that way. So
yeah, I guess you'll get different things out of watching either of them.
Yeah.
If you're just interested in the story, how it's told in the manga, then stick with the remake, even though it'll take a while to see the whole thing. There's only the first 6 episodes out.
Yeah.
And who knows? I mean, these days it might take like a year or 2 for another season of a show to come out.
Right.
Which is fine. It's better to take your time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I enjoy the difference in like animation style and coloring, and I like how Kenshin is like, because in the original anime, Kenshin was portrayed as being more of like a simpleton, he especially when he said Oro, like his catchphrase, I guess, it was always like in this way of like being naive or like, you know, like this silly kind of character. But in this one, he says it, but in a way that it doesn't show that he's silly.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I think I liked his character more in the remake.
Yeah.
And I was kind of surprised because I didn't think going into it that I would like want to keep watching, just because like I know what happens already.
Right.
In general, I don't always enjoy like seeing something that I've seen before.
Yeah.
But because the characterization was different, it seemed more like, you know, this is the story. I don't know in the first couple of episodes of the original how much filler was like in those episodes.
Yeah.
But
so
there might have been more.
Yeah, so like if I recall correctly, and anyone else out there can correct me down in the comments, there's a filler episode between meeting Yahiko and Sanosuke, or it's after meeting Sanosuke, and Gohei comes back for like the third time trying to get Kenshin's sword away, and Yahiko is part of that, and it's really it's I don't want to call it contrite, but it's not, it doesn't help, like it doesn't provide anything to the story that you're already going through, and it can be tedious, I think is the better word for it. And yeah.
I mean, most of the time you're watching something because you're invested in the story.
Right.
And when there's just stuff that's going on that doesn't contribute to that, it can be a bit annoying.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, it's just what I've seen so far of the 6 episodes. I'm really excited for the rest of the episodes to come out and to see what, like when they, so like he's going to confront, Janae after he captured Kaoru, and that is what happened, like the way they have it in the remake is what happened in the original, but the animation style is so different. It invokes a different, I guess emotion is correct, but like it's so different that it's itself portrays it differently.
Yeah. I think it fits the comedic aspects like pretty well too.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel very jarring switching between when it's more serious. And
yeah. And
because it's pretty carefree at times.
It is.
It's not always serious, tragic backstory.
Yeah. And I feel like in the original, it was a little jarring when they went from serious to comedic. And I feel like they couldn't decide on who was going to be like the comedic character. Was it going to be Sanosuke or was it going to be Yahiko? And I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, or even Kaoru, switching between the 3 of them, they weren't settled on somebody specifically for that. And what I found was that Sanosuke, I think, is going to be that character who's going to like diffuse tension, but then also switch into being serious, but not like so serious like Kenshin. It's like he's going to be the character that does that. I feel like they're going to stick with him in that way.
Yeah. I also felt like, regarding like Sanosuke's character, I felt the emotion of his backstory more.
Oh, yeah.
Than I remember feeling it, even though it's been a while since I watched the original.
Yeah.
But I cared more about his backstory.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And it's because the leader to the part of the army that was supposed to be with the Imperialists, but then they made them a false army. His death is portrayed as him just pushing Sanosuke off of a cliff and into a river and getting shot by the about the original.
So that happens in the original.
That happens in the original. In the reboot and in the manga, all he sees is the severed head of his leader and his mentor, I guess you could call him. And that's what happened in the manga. You don't see the killing on screen or in the pages. So it's that much more emotional because of that.
Yeah. And then because I felt the emotion there more, I understood more why he was fighting Kenshin and what problems he would have with the Imperialists.
Yes.
Where I guess I also was much younger when I was watching the original, but I just didn't fully get the point of his conflict then.
And I was older and I could understand, like I could see where he was coming from, but the emotional like attachment to Sanosuke's past wasn't there. There was a disconnect, at least from the audience to the story. And I'm like, would he really be that angry at the Imperialists if he saw what had happened, as opposed to not seeing it and only seeing the aftermath of it?
Yeah, and also seeing the aftermath and then hearing people around you, not understand what actually happened, that they were framed for something.
Yeah, yeah, and then like spreading rumors about them being corrupt and so it's that much more. That's a much more emotional impact than what was given to us in the original anime.
Yeah, which I appreciated. And I think that's why, for something, a lot of it I've already seen, I want to keep watching now. More episodes come out.
Exactly.
Because I'm definitely getting more out of it this time.
Yeah.
And I think the original is good.
Yeah.
But, like, I just feel like I'm getting more out of it this time.
Right. And I mean, like, I'm not saying it to, like, diss the original. I enjoy the original, but I enjoy the original more for the nostalgia than anything else. And like the fight scenes are different too. Like I feel like because in the original you had these quick frames and Kenshin essentially disappearing and then reappearing, and then the white light slashes from his sword, and then like the jet plane effect as he moved, which I understood was trying to show that he was really fast at fighting. But in the remake, it's, I think, grounded in a little more realism.
Yeah, I mean, you can still see they're trying to show you that he's very fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, does seem a bit more realistic.
Yeah. And like when he first fights Sanosuke in the original, Sanosuke attacks and with his Zanzibar, and he jumps in the air and slashes down, and the height he gets him from his jump is
too much.
Too high. Especially swinging a heavy blade that was supposed to like take out a rider and take out horse and rider at once. The whole thing is just, I think, a little more realistic, which I enjoy watching a lot more than something that's based in fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of goes along with, there's like something that like this bothers me in like other like things too, and this is going to be like a very specific thing.
Yeah.
But something that I didn't like about the original was that every time, like, if he got very serious or was like in kind of like drawn into like a mindset that he would have had in the past, I always felt like it was portraying it as more like an alternate personality than just like him in a different mindset. Yeah,
because his eyes would change, his demeanor would change, his whole personality would change. And in this, it's not as drastic. It's very subtle.
Yeah, which I enjoy way more.
I do, yeah,
because it always bothered me in the original. It's like, I don't know, maybe the eyes changing were just to try to indicate to the audience. Maybe that wasn't actually happening there, but like it was just to show the audience like he's in an altered mind state. Yeah. But I just didn't like how it was portrayed. Like it felt to me like he was a different person. And it's like he can be the same person the whole time. Yeah. Just with, I don't even know how to explain it.
No, and I understand though too, but I think that's also comes from like what the point I was trying to make earlier too. Like Kenshin is portrayed as this silly character, even though we know his backstory, even though we know that he's a serious person to begin with. He comes across as being this very silly character, and then he goes from one extreme to the other. Yeah. Depending upon the situation of like what the show was showing at the time. And in this one, his personality is all the way through. He doesn't go from one extreme to the other. It's So I think that's why it makes like that subtle change work a lot more than in the original installation of the anime that had to do that extreme. And I think that's what Shonen manga was like, or Shonen anime, I should say, was like to begin with in the 90s. I feel like a lot of characters, if they did that extreme, like almost personality shift when they were getting serious about a fight or about defending somebody.
Yeah. And like, I didn't like that it seemed to then imply that he had to be a different person in the past to be capable, of being an assassin and killing people, when he's been the same person the whole time. He did what he had to do at the time.
Yeah.
And has since, taken a vow not to kill anymore. Mm-hmm. But he's still essentially the same person.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's why I liked the live action movies so much, is because it stuck to that aspect of his personality, that he didn't need to be this totally different person to keep that vow, instead of being like the serious person that he is. And why I felt like the live action iterations of the manga worked wonderfully. And that's why I was a little apprehensive with the reboot, even though I was excited for it, because I love the manga and the live action movies so much, and the original anime. To see how this is all playing out, I'm like really excited for the other episodes, for sure.
Yeah. When I was watching it and his eyes weren't changing color, I was like, all right, this has what I want.
Yeah. And with like, especially, and also like with his first real adversary, Janae, his eyes aren't like blue. You know, it's like, it's because like in the original anime, his pupils weren't white, they were like this black toned, and then his eyes were like this light blue color to indicate that he had this ability of like paralyzing his opponents through his fighting spirit. In this, it's more gray. And of course you don't know the indication of any color of anything in a manga because it's all black and white.
That's true.
But there's no like supernatural connection to it, which I know that's not what they were trying to do in the original anime, but that's what came across for me. Like his ability to paralyze his opponent by having his fighting spirit be more stronger than his opponent's fighting spirit, and like how they called it sorcery and stuff like that. It came across as being like this supernatural gift, when it's really not a supernatural gift at all.
Yeah, like it seems like you're supposed to take it as it's just an over-exaggerated, like being frozen with fear.
Yeah.
Because someone's stronger than you or more menacing.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I definitely got more so in the remake. I don't remember from the original. But in a show that a lot of it's supposed to be grounded in reality, it fits more.
Yeah, exactly. And the fight, we'll see how they handle the actual fight, because it's not going to happen until the next episode, which I knew was going to happen because it happened in the original where Kaoru was kidnapped by Janae. So we'll see what happens with the fight, which I'm looking forward to watching and seeing how they handle it, if it's going to be frame for frame the same as the original anime, or if they're going to change some things to it. Maybe those changes will be drastic, maybe those changes will be small and minute, but it will, I think, be able to stand on its own as its own thing.
Yeah, which is what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Any remake, you shouldn't expect it to be exactly the same. There's different people involved. Yeah. Especially if they're trying to portray the story closer to the manga. Yeah. But it'll be good regardless.
It will, absolutely.
And they have done a good job so far, so there's no reason right now to doubt that they'll be able to pull it off.
Well, yeah, exactly. My sentiments exactly. Yeah. So, being that this anime is just starting and it's not ended yet, because we only have 6 episodes. I feel like we've said all that we really could about this, about what we're excited about how this compares to the original anime, and I'm excited to see where they go. Do you have any other thoughts?
I don't think so. But I would recommend, if people haven't seen it before, the remake is a good way to get involved.
Yeah, and to be introduced to the world of Rurouni Kenshin and yeah.
Yeah. It's only 6 episodes, so it's not the biggest time commitment right now.
Right.
And it's a good introduction to the story so far.
It is, absolutely. So I hope you guys enjoyed our first episode of Allison and Katie's Animated Adventures. Our next series we're going to be looking at is another anime. I don't remember what it's called because I haven't looked at our schedule yet, but it should be a very good one, and we hope that you come back to see what we're next going to be discussing, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.